Hey there, so today I want to tune in to a little bit of cringe brought to you from SyFy Wire. If you're like, hey, that umbrella guy, why exactly are we looking at this? Well, me, I'm a part-time cringe farmer. I love to go out and till the fields of these major enterprises, and I also like to answer questions like, what happened to SyFy? I mean, if you think about the SyFy network, you look back and you think about all of those shows they had, and then you look at them and you think, what in the world went wrong? Stuff like this kind of thing here, wherein the people, they basically gave in to their political hatred enough that, well, basically enough tears were shed to drown all the cats surrounding the cat ladies. That's right, you have this kind of stuff represented from a sci-fi channel. This is the rabbit hole they decided they would climb down. Maybe they think they get clicks off of this stuff. Who knows? But, well, it's funny. Now, when you look at this stuff, too, hopefully people recognize the fact that you don't have to be right or left to understand that cringe is cringe. And this, man, it is cringe. So it starts off complaining about people objecting to the word witch hunt, or this phrase witch hunt, rather. You know, the invocation of it by Donald Trump when he feels particularly exasperated by the ongoing investigation into his campaign's ties to Russian government. They talk about the groups that get mad about this, the political opponents, because they don't like that, because, you know, of course, where there's smoke, there's fire, they say. Then they talk about feminists. Now, I think that this is actually a very interesting concept, considering they talk about witches being the scapegoated victims of a corrupt patriarchy. They also talk about historians within this. You know, you could have added that to the aforementioned, but they're talking about, no, they're more tying that to the first portion, talking about the political opponents. Now, I thought the feminist thing is very interesting, as food for thought. If you think about the people that accused witches in the past, who do you think about? Do you think about the people that tried and convicted them, or do you think about the people that actually didn't like them and decided to use a corrupt system in order to go and to basically weigh accusation and cost people their lives? See, when you look at that, wow, maybe some of these groups, maybe that hits very close to home for them. But anyway, I digress on that. Then they talk about, of course, self-proclaimed witches would just as soon not be associated. Thank you very much. Then they start going through and associating. You know, they have things like, sorry, actual witches, you know, when they're discussing this. And then they try to make jokes. Now, the jokes here are probably the cringiest portion of it. So, of course, I want you to catch a few of them. I really want you to catch that. Also, very interesting, they think that witches in the past, quote-unquote witch hunts, those were gendered. You know, they say, you know, a sticking point, weren't witches women? Well, technically, you know, if you think about witch trials and you think about people who died there, yeah, maybe you need to go back and research yourself. Maybe look at those witch trials and maybe see exactly who died, because there were a lot of people and they went across that whole spectrum for you. But then again, you know, it's 2018, not 1618, so we get a beautiful mosaic of identities. So here is their proof that Trump, he's a witch. Of course, with no harm done to actual witches, even though you make fun of them within that. So Trump, he has late night habits. You know, he goes out, he does things always that, like the witch's Sabbath. Then he talks about how Trump recoils from modern science. Now, I thought that was kind of interesting, because this is basically saying, hey, if you identify as a witch, well, you get that, you hate science. Isn't that interesting there? And, you know, if someone actually tries to bring that in, if someone tries to put it in, well, you can see some of the wording utilized here. Trump claims to have superhuman or at least inhuman physical powers. Again, making fun of the type of people that believe in that. I love it when they accidentally put on the wrong glove and they smack the wrong cheeks. That's kind of funny to me. Trump claims to be in touch with supernatural sources of wisdom. And they talk about having a gut feeling, you know, because that apparently is a terrible thing to do. Trump believes that other people have magical powers. You know, they try to throw in the F-35. You know, it could actually turn invisible. Trump is famously averse to dogs. You know, basically, if you're not a pet owner, boys and girls, you're basically some kind of laughingstock. Man, they'll try anything within that because germophobia. You know, I thought it was bad to make fun of people that were afraid of things like that, that actually had some kind of mental issue when it comes to that. But hey, what do I know? Then, of course, they take shots at Christians here. Trump's practice of Christianity seems awfully pagan. Oh, no offense to pagans, but, you know, of course, offense meant to Christians, you know. So it's kind of funny because they take shots at two groups again because Trump, they've got to take shots at him. So they've taken shots at people who self-identify as witches, people that actually identify as pagan, and, of course, you know, Christians within that. You can see them talking about this on as well. He is also pretty obviously unfamiliar with the content of that book. You know, remember how he also during the eclipse looked straight into the sun? Oh, that's pretty weird. There is literally no other explanation for how Trump became president. If you don't realize how he became president, maybe you should look at your own network. Maybe you should look at your own systems of thought, the processes for that, before you start thinking, man, him, Russian bots and on, that stuff put the man in office. Because when you look at that it wasn't as much of people talking about Trump being a great person. Now, they said that these other people, we want to send a message. And they sent a message loud and clear. Was that message a good one or a bad one? That's up to you. But still, within that, these people, they haven't learned. They haven't learned, if you go out and you look at some of the lessons that have been showcased in places like Twitter. There was a guy talking about how if you wanted to bring people back into the fold and get their votes next time, then you needed to go in and you needed to stop calling them Nazis and on, laying them to the side, calling them Russian bots and on. The person that threw that out there, their response, tens of thousands of people tried to deplatform them. They tried to call their job and they tried to take that away because, you know, bringing people back into the fold, getting votes and actually winning, nope, Twitter virtue is more important. Tells you a lot about people in this day and age. Then, you know, of course, they kid. They kid. They try to reel all of this in by talking about, of course, Trump being able to manipulate centuries-old racist resentments, talking about magic powers of sorts, but, you know, they're less mysterious, if also more frightening to comprehend than any explanation that involves Russian bots and on. You can see them trying to go out of their way to back away from all of these claims with Russia and on, you know, because again, if you can't have your fallback, well, then you have your other fallback. You get to call people ists, phobes, and on. It's crazy that this is going to set the stage for elections in the future as well. The idea that deplatforming, the idea that acting or interacting in this way where decorum and civility falls to the wayside, yeah, that's become par for the course. Trials and on, the stuff that they're trying to make a joke about here, that kind of stuff, it is going to be a par for the course. It's going to be the new norm. And that's actually frightening. I think that's more frightening than all of the cringe you can put together out here, wherein you have places like SyFy Wire, again, trying to cry themselves to sleep at night like this, finding offense in something, then, of course, trying to prove that it doesn't matter what current year we're in, they can't move, followed by, of course, explanations that simply fall apart when you look at this. Again, you don't have to be on either side of the spectrum to see that these things don't set up, but yet there's still people that buy into that. So anyhow, tell me what you think about this stuff. Also, happy holidays, Merry Christmas to everyone there. You know, we have 2 holidays back to back, and then we're going to almost be in 2020. I don't know what you wrong thinkers are talking about. I figure we'll skip 2019 altogether. It's almost 2020, then we're going to be in 2020. Current year, it dictates that you haven't learned. Why shouldn't you? You know what you should have learned? Support the channel. Subscribe, like, do all of the wonderful things there. Click that bell so you get notifications. Also, if you want to go further than that, you want to actually support the channel, there are links within the description to do so. I appreciate that. We have new content daily, sometimes a few times a day, because, well, this stuff, it never stops being funny. But anyhow, leave your comments. Let me know what you think about that. And as always, thank you. I appreciate you being here.